Do you find yourself facing the same emotional wounds or patterns again and again, wondering why they keep resurfacing no matter how much inner work you've already done? It's not because you're stuck, and it's definitely not because you're failing at healing. What keeps resurfacing is the deepest layer, one that most people never reach, or they spend their entire lifetimes avoiding. And it's not just one memory or one incident, it's a core wound or belief that fuels a recurring pattern, often tied to fears or unmet needs in early life, ancestral energy, or soul level lessons. Now, to give you an example, with myself, growing up as a child and into my teenage years, this showed up as a fear of abandonment because I was raised and brought up in a house where I didn't know my mother, I had an on and off relationship with my father, and I was raised by my grandparents and extended family members. And this created this deep survival pattern of people pleasing. And that was just one of the patterns. But my child self learned from a young age, even though I didn't want to, but it's what my child self learned and programmed itself, knowing and understanding that by carrying out this programming and this idea of people pleasing, I felt safe. I felt love. I had acceptance, belonging, nurturing. And my nervous system started running on this programming because it understood that this equaled survival, it equaled safety, it equaled all those things that my child self never had. And you might have your own version of this, for example, deep self-worth wounds, that constant feeling of not enough, seeking validation, questioning everything, wondering whether you deserve it or not. Or maybe it's people-pleasing, surrendering your power over, which you developed as a coping mechanism so that you can be accepted, or where your boundaries were never fully supported. Or maybe it's trauma, grief, or a heavy emotional vibrational feeling that feels real enough, that might be ancestral or past life experience that hasn't been fully processed, energetical experiences that your mind and body never had the space to release, yet continue to ripple through your energy and emotional response. And if you're here listening, then I'm guessing that you've been on this spiritual journey for quite some time, that you've got your bag of tools, your techniques, your practices, your rituals, your insights that have helped you so far to deal with emotional wounds or patterns. But this one wound, this pattern, this feeling, this knot of this dense energy keeps coming back up. Perhaps it catches you off guard. You might be driving, washing the dishes, doing the gardening, watching your favourite show. And then suddenly there it is, this feeling. This knot of this dense energy, this pocket of energy comes up for no apparent reason. You thought you had dealt with it, but there it is again. Perhaps you're sleeping and then you wake up in the middle of the night and it's there. You thought you had shifted. This deep emotional ache is there lingering in the background and it comes back up. Maybe you thought you've understood it, that you've had a breakthrough and finally it's shifted. Weeks go by, months, maybe even years. But there it is, it comes back around again. And there might be a part of you that's asking, why does this keep happening to me? What's the message here? I don't like feeling like this. Why do I feel like this? What am I missing or not seeing? And the truth is, my friend, that you are not stuck, you are not weak, and you are not broken. You are courageous. You are someone who's willing to look and go that much more deeper. But some wounds just linger. Because they're not asking to be fixed, they're asking to be looked and met in a new way. They're asking to be understood at the level of your soul. Now let's take a look at the steps that you can actually take to break this cycle, this loop that's keeping you tethered to the past so that you can move forward, healing those parts of yourself, raising your conscious awareness and your vibrational frequency, and accessing your highest timeline, stepping forward and remembering who you really are underneath all of that. So step one is awareness and understanding. So here you stop trying to get rid of it and shift to understanding it. Because you see, patterns don't repeat because you're broken. They repeat because your subconscious thinks it's trying to protect you. So here, instead of trying to fight the emotion, try asking, what is this trying to show me? What part of me still believes that this is necessary? What is this trying to protect me from? For example, if you grew up with emotional instability or emotional insecurity, then your nervous system might still believe that if I'm hyper-aware or if I have my guard up, then I won't be abandoned again. And so when an old emotion resurfaces, like people-pleasing, feeling unsafe when someone pulls away, choosing unavailable partners, or when love felt unstable, it can feel like life is repeating that same pain over again, but they're coming up as a way to show and guide you to what still needs care and healing. For example, in my childhood, my child self learned from a very young age that people can leave at any moment. that you can't rely on other people to survive. You have to adapt. And these things, when they get left, undealt with and unprocessed for a very long time, they can ripple out into other areas of your life. Even if it's encountering different people, but that same emotional reaction, that same charge will still come back up, because that is the known familiar pattern. It's what your brain has been programmed to do when it feels those kind of elevated emotions. And because I carried this pattern, this emotional deep wound with me since, from a very young age, it echoed into other areas of my life, relationships, friendship groups, no matter what it was. And even if those same people weren't there in that same scenario, if my body felt some sort of anxiety or was in a fight or flight state, that same programming would kick in. But here's a shift. Until that root is acknowledged, that energy of that survival pattern will keep rising back up, not to punish you, but to guide you back to the places where you lost belonging, safety, love, survival, where you handed your power over, so that this time you can choose yourself. Number 2 is to identify the trigger point and not the symptom. So once you've identified the wound beneath the pattern, the next layer is learning to feel the root, not just the surface emotion that shows up today. Because what's resurfacing is rarely about the present moment. It's almost always a much older belief, a pattern, an emotional imprint that's coming up now to be processed. For example, when you feel anxious at the thought of conflict, you might be able to trace it back to growing up in an unpredictable and an emotionally charged home. Or when someone doesn't respond in the way that you hoped, that sting might come from an old fear of rejection. So these trigger points are not random emotional spikes, they're echoes of moments where you learned as a child to stay quiet, to stay small, invisible, agreeable, so that you can feel safe, love, belonging, whatever it is that you needed to carry on. So feeling the root means noticing the emotion without trying to fix it. Letting your body reveal old tension, fear or grief. Acknowledging the younger version of you who didn't have the support they needed. Seeing the belief the child self created, like I'm not enough, I need to earn love. Or allowing the emotion to move instead of suppressing it. When you get to the root, you break the cycle. But here's the thing, this is a part that most people tend to avoid because they feel and think that, well, if they put too much attention and focus onto that, they'll manifest more of it. Or it's just too heavy that it feels like you're reliving it all over again. But really what you're doing, you're allowing that part of you that's been frozen to finally thaw. And when you do this and you step forward, you allow that energy to move, because everything is energy. What you're doing is you're transmuting it and you're creating that space to say, here, I'll finally release and let it go. And this is your turning point. It's your breakthrough. Because when you do this, you're no longer using that as an anchor to keep you tethered to the past. Instead, this becomes a message, guidance, wisdom, insight, a doorway into reclaiming parts of yourself, part of your power that you abandoned in order to survive. Step number 3 is to let the emotion complete the cycle. Now, most people think that healing happens when the emotion goes away. But in truth, healing happens when the emotion that has come up has finally had a chance to complete what it came to do. Every emotion is energy and it has a natural arc, a beginning, a rise, a peak, and then a release. And as a child, you probably didn't get a chance to complete this cycle. Instead, you were told to stop crying, stop making a fuss, be quiet, stay calm. Be stronger. You're too sensitive. And as a result of this energy was stored inside of you. It got lost and frozen inside of you. And as adults, that unprocessed emotional energy returns to finally move on. And the most powerful thing that you can do is to allow that feeling, that emotion, complete its cycle. So to complete this cycle, shift your perspective and sit with it for 90 seconds. Instead of trying to resist it, distract you, or analysing it, let yourself feel the emotion. Even for a short period of time. Let yourself feel it fully. Most emotions will peak and soften quite quickly when you stop fighting it. Then name what you are feeling. This helps bridge the emotion out of the unconscious and into the awareness. And this might sound like I feel unsafe. I feel disappointed. I feel frustrated. I feel abandoned. I feel rejected. I feel insecure. Here, language softens the nervous system. Then I want you to breathe into the sensation of your body. This is you becoming aware and thinking, okay, where do I feel this in my body? In my shoulders, in my back, in my lower back, in my stomach, in my throat, in my ankles. And then I want you to send your breath as this life force chi energy into that area, not to get rid of it, but to create space for it. And finally, let that wave of energy move through you. Your breath, that chi energy, let it move through you, because emotions need movement. Emotions are energy, and energy requires movement. Instead of being stuck, dormant, lying there for years, months, whatever it is in your energy field, it all requires the permission to move on. So whether this is trembling, shaking, movement, tears, whatever feels natural for you in that moment, allow yourself to go through that and move that energy through you. Whatever it is, it's all release. It's okay to feel. It's your nervous system finally getting a chance to complete what it never had the chance to do before. It's you giving your nervous system the permission to say, yes, okay, here's a space, let's do this. And then what you will notice is that it doesn't return in the same way. It has less charge behind it. It's softer, less intensity, until eventually it doesn't return back at all. And that is profound. And what I've learned over the years is that it also requires patience, trust and faith, especially if you feel like you've had the breakthrough, but then it comes back up again. That is when you need to be gentle with yourself. Not too difficult, not too harsh with yourself. Be gentle. Bring you back into ease and be like, okay, you know what? Let's do this again. Let's go through these steps. Let's heal that part of ourselves and break this loop. And sometimes it just depends on how deep this thing is, this deepest wound of yours. Sometimes it just depends on how deep it goes, because sometimes it can be ancestral and sometimes it does take time, and that's okay. Be gentle with yourself, be nurturing, be caring, and continually bring healing to yourself. Step number 4, updating the belief. This is you rewiring and reprogramming that subconscious mind, because once the emotion has been felt, something interesting happens. You gain access to the belief behind the pattern that created it in the first place, because every emotional loop is being held by a subconscious belief that you learned that was formed from a very young age. And now your job isn't to fight the pattern, but to update, to upgrade that root belief underneath it. So one of the first things that you can do is ask, what belief did I form when this pattern began? And this is you going back to the earliest moment, memory or sensation that feels connected to this wound. And sometimes it can be simple, it comes quite clearly. Sometimes it's just a knowing that you feel deeply within. Whichever way it comes, it's okay. Acknowledge it and accept it. For example, this could be, if I'm perfect, people won't leave. If I stay small, then I won't be judged. If I take care of everyone, I will be accepted. And then I want you to ask yourself, is this belief true now? Because you might not be that same person who you were back then. You have power now. You have raised your vibrational frequency. You've got conscious awareness. You're not in that same environment anymore. You no longer need to have that belief in order to feel safe, loved, connected anymore. You're a different person. Vibrationally, you've changed, because change is inevitable. So I want you to really dig deep and ask yourself, is that belief still necessary now? Do I still need to carry that with me? Does it serve me? Does it serve who I am becoming and where I am going? To give you an example, a while back, I was reading an article late at night, and it triggered something deep within me, something that I thought I dealt with years before. And it came up quite sudden, out the blue. And in that moment, there was a part of me that felt scared, felt terrified, and I quickly suppressed it, quickly shut it down. And then I was like, you know what, I've had enough. I'm going to lie down. I'm going to go to bed. And as I lay there in bed, I was then teleported back into my old house as a child with those people where I experienced this traumatic thing. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? I don't want to deal with it. And I quickly came out of it. But then I was back there again, still in that same moment, but I was back there again in that memory. I was like, why is this happening to me? And I was so scared and so terrified, because I could feel the emotion of my child self. And in that moment, I called in my higher self, called in my spiritual team to come and help guide me. And what I did in that moment was energetical cord cutting. And I also upgraded my belief. I also spoke to my child self with new empowering thoughts and beliefs that allowed that energy, that dense energy, to dissolve away. So if this resonates with you, I'll put that video in the description box below. Definitely check that out because it will help you, especially if you are having these recurring thoughts and beliefs or deep emotional wounds that just won't shift, or something that has just come out the blue and you're like, whoa, where has this come from? And now it just keeps popping up. This is your time to step into your power and to finally release and let it go. Finally, I want you to ask yourself what belief aligns with who I am becoming. And this isn't about repeating affirmation, it's about anchoring into a deeper truth that your body can feel. For example, an old belief might be, my needs are a burden. And a new belief might be, my needs deserve to be met. I am worthy, I am deserving. Remember, these aren't just thoughts. They become instructions for your subconscious mind, new permission slips for your nervous system, and new pathways for your future self. So breathe into them, feel into them, and gently allow these beliefs to take over the old ones. And repeat them gently, as if you're hearing them for the first time. When you consciously shift the belief, that pattern no longer needs to control your behavior. They set you free, and your nervous system begins to soften. The old programming, it loses its power. And you step forward anew. And this, my friend, is the moment when the old programming begins to dissolve away. Number 5, nurturing your inner child. This is you breaking the cycle by turning inwards and telling your younger self, it's okay, I get it, you are safe now, I am here. And if you want to get a real idea of how this might look like, that video that I just mentioned that I'm going to link in the description box below, definitely check that out, because by doing this step, it changes everything. Not just the fact that it helps you release and let that memory go or that deeper wound go, but it changes your energy. It changes your energy in the past and thus your now and thus into your future. Because energy is just everywhere. Everything is happening simultaneously. And when you break that cycle, that energetical bond, and you let it go and you allow it to dissolve by giving yourself that permission to do so, it creates a ripple of energy. And the energetical shift that you will see, my God, is it profound. It is absolutely transformational. Energetically, you break the cycle by giving yourself now what you didn't get then. You can place your hand on your heart and say, you don't have to be scared anymore. You are safe. I am here. This step closes the emotional loop and the pattern stops repeating. It dissolves away. And the reason why this is crucial is because every resurfacing pattern is tied to a moment where your needs were not met, whether it's safety, love, belonging, connection, nurture, security. And this is one of the most crucial steps as part of this process. So the final step at number 6 is building new patterns and recognizing growth. So even after that emotional charge has lifted, the brain can still run on old programming, on old wiring out of habit. So when that familiar feeling turns up and it comes back up, pause, take a breath and create that gap of awareness and choose a new response. And recognize that this is a sign of your readiness and not failure, that you have the courage and strength now to face this anew. And every time you respond as anew, it strengthens your new neural pathways and it will also reveal to you your old patterns. And remember that this is a journey, and over time, as you respond as this new adult version of yourself, in your truth, with boundaries, this empowered version of you, stepping forward in your full authenticity, this new empowered way of being will become your default. And if you feel like you're at that point in your life where you know that you're ready to understand those deeper layers, where you want clarity on where these patterns began, whether in childhood, ancestry, or past lifetimes, then this is the kind of work that I do in Higher Self Quantum Healing, where I connect and channel your higher self, accessing the subconscious mind, healing, releasing and letting go of those deeper, dark wounds and those dense energies that are still lingering there in your energy field, and getting to the root cause, the origins of where these patterns began. And if you feel called towards this, then I'll put the link in the description box below. It's Higher Self Quantum Healing, so definitely check that out. But next, go check out this video right here where I share with you where an old pattern came up in the most horrific way and what my higher self did when it stepped in.